This is Adira. So I'll be presenting on the segmental markedness in Mappila variety of Malayalam. I'm Adira. I'm from University of Hyderabad. So my co-author is my supervisor, Murray Deepak Triambak. So this is the overview of my presentation. First, I'll be introducing the basic concepts that comes in my paper. Then I'll be moving to the major part, that is neutralization and markedness reduction. Then markedness reduction in vowels. Then I'll be discussing markedness reduction in consonants. Then I'll be concluding with my analysis. Yeah. So as my paper is titled segmental markedness, so I hope I'll give you an introduction on segments and features. A segment in phonology can be defined as any discrete unit that can be identified either physically or auditorily in the stream of speech. Crystal 2003. Segments are composed of a set of features. Hall 1997 defines features as psychological entities defined in terms of acoustic and or articulatory realization, which provide the link between the cognitive representation of speech and its physical manifestation. The features are inevitable to capture the contrast in natural languages. Therefore, a feature can be distinctive in some languages and non-distinctive in others. As a segment is a bundle of different types of features, the segments are not of equal status. Thus, considering various factors, both the segments and features can be either marked or unmarked. So, next, let's see what is markedness. Markedness can be defined as a state of standing out as unusual or divergent in comparison to a more common or regular forms. Natural languages prefer to have unmarked structures over marked ones. Therefore, speakers tend to adopt repair strategies to reduce the markedness of the structures. However, there are also cases where marked structures are preserved. Here, the paper attempts to analyze the segmental markedness in Mappila variety of Malayalam in OT framework. So, I'll give you a small introduction on Mappila variety. Mappila variety is a variety of Malayalam spoken predominantly by the Muslim Mappila community of Kerala. The dialect is extensively spoken in the North Malabar region of Kerala, that is, in the district of Malappuram, Kozhikode, Kannur, Kasaragod, Thrissur and Palakkad. The Mappila Malayalam shows the deep influence of the Arabic language. Hence, the dialect exhibits explicit variation from the mainstream Malayalam. Among Mappila variety itself, variations can be observed from village to village. Subramaniam, 1997. So, I have collected the data from a coastal region named Ponnani. It is in Malappuram district in Kerala. Ponnani is marked as a trade center in the history of Malabar. Ponnani developed as one of the most important centers of Muslim trade, and the constant contact with Arabs influenced the language also. Arabic Malayalam, a script accustomed to write Malayalam, was originated at Ponnani. The script was conjointly referred to as the Ponnani script. Arabic influenced the lexicon, literature, and also other aspects of Malayalam and paved way for the emergence of the Mappila variety. So, as a methodology, I have adopted the comparative approach. So, the analysis between the so-called standard variety of Malayalam and the Mappila variety of Malayalam spoken in Ponnani region was compared. The major part of the data was collected from residents of Ponnani region. It was done mainly by recording phone calls due to this COVID, by informing the informants in advance. A minimal amount of information was also collected from a few movies and videos on social media. The data is analyzed in the framework of optimality theory. So, I have analyzed here the neutralization for the analysis. Neutralization and markedness reduction. Paul D. Lacey, 2006, used the term neutralization to refer to a change in a feature value that is not influenced by an adjacent segment. The output target of the neutralization is always the least marked available element on some markedness hierarchy. Rebetskoy, 1939. Therefore, the process of neutralization that leads to markedness reduction of segment is analyzed in OT framework. So, markedness. So now let's see the Markedness reduction in vowels. There are instances of segment U in Malayalam words becomes in word boundaries and E elsewhere in Mappila variety. This variation analyzed here with relevance to the Markedness reduction principle proposed by Lacey 2006 in vowels. The following constraint hierarchy is considered for the analysis. So the hierarchy is like the constraints are star minus high, then star plus round, then star minus back. Kager 2004 explains these constraints in the context of epenthetic vowels, as the epenthetic vowels he considered were and a, which are low, minus low, plus back, and minus round. However, in Mappila variety, E and are the output forms. As E is a minus back vowel, the constraint star minus back is lower ranked. Moreover, when we consider other two constraints, that is star minus high and star plus round, since the segment U is minus high and plus round, and the segment E is plus high and minus round, there is no obligation that the ranking between both the constraints has to be fixed at the as the ranking between them is not decisive in selecting the optimal candidate. So, following ones are the instances of vowel neutralization in Mappila variety, which leads to the Markedness reduction of segments. So, the first one is U becoming E. So, here und, which means have, that is in standard variety, it becomes ind in Mappila variety. And the next one is Manushyan, which means human in standard variety, becomes Manisan in Mappila variety. And the next one, Erudi becomes Aed, which means wrote in Mappila variety. And next one is Merugutiri, which means candle, becomes Meikutiri in Mappila variety. So here I am considering the first sample, that is Unda becomes Inda for analysis. So here in this table you can see that the input candidate is Unda and the output that we get in Mappila variety, it is Inda. So here Unda violates the sorry. Okay, so Unda violates the constraint star plus round, and when we come to Inda, it does not violate. Therefore, the violation in star plus round becomes fatal. And when we take the third one, that is Unda, which can be a possible candidate, it also violates the higher rank constraint star minus high. Therefore, the candidate Inda becomes the optimal candidate. And the next one is U becoming E in the word boundaries. So here the first one is Vannu in standard Malayalam, it becomes Vannu in Mappila variety. And the next one is Kandu, which means so, becomes Kandu in Mappila variety. Then Ninnu becomes Ninnu. Then Pidichu becomes Pidichu. So here we can, I have considered the first one, that is Vannu becomes Vannu. So here both the candidates, that is Vannu and Vannu, violates the higher rank constraint minus star minus high. Therefore, we can consider it as it for like deciding the optimal candidate. Therefore, let's look at the next constraint. So, in case of next constraint that is star plus round, the candidate input candidate Vannu violates the next constraint. Therefore, the candidate Vannu becomes the optimal candidate. So, in the vowel sonority hierarchy, E proposed by Lacey 2006, E and U share the same position, but neutralization proceeds to both directions. in the hierarchy because sonority has the least relevance in deciding the outputs of neutralization. As the unrounded high vowels such as and e are considered as the least marked epenthetic vowels across languages, the candidate inde qualifies as the optimal candidate. Moreover, the input unde makes a fatal violation, violating the higher rank constraint, a star plus round. So next, let's see the markedness reduction in consonants. In Malayalam, retroflexion is a marked feature across languages. Lacy 2006. Haman 2003 argues that articulatory complexity and the weakness of their cues are two possible reasons that make retroflexes marked. Though the infrequent occurrences of retroflexes cross-linguistically support this claim, Haman 2003 states that there is a lack of evidence for the universal perceptual markedness of the retroflexes. Even though there are many cases of neutralization and other phonological processes in Mappila variety to account for the markedness reduction principle, the neutralization of retroflex approximant Ra and retroflex sibilant fricative Sha are considered for the analysis. The articulatory complexity of segments is often considered to explain the markedness of the segments. According to Haman, 2003, a segmental class is marked because it is more difficult to articulate compared to a class that is easier to articulate. Applying this articulatory grounding of markedness to the class of retroflexes, it can be stated that retroflexes are more marked than apical alveolars or dentals since retroflexes involve a rising and displacement of the tongue tip towards the post-alveolar region. In contrast, an apical alveolar involves only a tongue tip rising. The articulatory complexity can hence account for the restricted occurrences of the retroflex class. As the alveolars are considered as less marked than retroflexes, the following domination hierarchy can be proposed for OT analysis. Shaukat 2018. Therefore, so the constraint hierarchy is like star retroflex constraint is higher ranked and star alveolar is lower ranked than that. Prince and Smolensky 1993. The interaction between the faithfulness constraint and markedness constraint determines the phonology of a particular language. If the faithfulness constraints are lower ranked than the featural or markedness constraints like star retroflex, the retroflex segments never surface in the languages. Whereas if the star retroflex constraint is lower ranked than faithfulness constraints, the retroflex emerges. Therefore, the star retroflex constraint is higher ranked in the constraint hierarchy to outrank all other constraints. Since the plus back is a feature relevant to retroflexes, the faithfulness constraint ident plus back is also considered for analysis where it is lower ranked in constraint hierarchy. Therefore, the following constraint ranking will be considered for analysis. So, star retroflex constraint is higher ranked, then star alveolar, then the most lower ranked constraint is ident plus back, which is a faithfulness constraint. So, these are the instances of neutralization of retroflex approximants to palatal approximant are given below. So, here ya, ra becoming ya. So, wherever there is ra in standard variety of Malayalam, it becomes ya in Mappila variety. For example, Mara, which means rain, becomes Maya. Puru, which means worm, becomes Puyu. And Vari becomes Vai. Then Param becomes Payam. Kuri becomes Kui. Kori becomes Koi. So I have considered the first example, that is Mara, for the analysis. Here we can see the input constraint, that is Mara. It violates the constraint retroflex, and the other possible one, that is Mala, it also violates the constraint star retroflex. Therefore, Maya becomes the optimal candidate because it violates only the lower rank constraint, that is ident plus back. So these are the instances of neutralization of retroflex sibilant fricative ra are given below. So here, not ra, sha. So sha becomes sa. You can see in case of it is Manushin becomes Manisan, then Sandosham becomes Sandosam, Vishamam becomes Besamam, Sharja becomes Sarja. And Manishin is considered for the analysis. Here you can see the input candidate Manishin. It violates the star retroflex constraint, which is higher ranked. But in case of Manisan, it violates only the lower rank constraint alveolar, star alveolar, and Iden plus that. Therefore, the candidate Manisan becomes the optimal candidate. So these are my conclusions. In case of speech sound segments, the markedness reduction is made possible by reducing the markedness of their features or replacing the marked feature with less marked ones, that is through featural markedness reduction. While comparing the Mappila variety with the so-called standard variety of Malayalam, many instances of feature markedness reduction can be noticed. Most of the morphophonological processes such as neutralization, assimilation, elimination, partition, etc. can be explained in the OD framework with relevance to markedness. The neutralization of the retroflex approximant is one of the most predominant processes that even make the Mappila variety unique from other varieties of Malayalam. The neutralization of retroflexes proves that Mappila variety is hesitant to accommodate marked segments in its phonemic inventory. Advanced research is essential in vowel neutralization and other morphophonological processes to delve more to the other arenas of markedness such as preservation of the mark, the emergence of the unmarked, markedness conflation, etc. It can be assumed that thorough research on these areas will draw accurate conclusions regarding the socio-cultural and linguistic dimensions of variation in the varieties of Malayalam. These are my references. Thank you, everyone.
Athira, I have one comment. Not comment. I am not very aware of the optimality theory. It is very recent development in the phonology. Not very recent, but for us it is recent development. At one place you have given param become payam, and all the examples I found the glide is coming in intervocalic positions.
Yes, sir.
So, what is your submission? Means if it is between intervocalic position only, then it will change into ra into ya, because it is very possible to have a glide between two vowels.
So,
particularly from high vowels to back, high front vowel to back vowel.
So, sir, in this case, it is like in every position, ra changes to ya.
Okay, but I saw the example only in intervocalic position. That's what I read the question.
No, sir. Even if the ra comes in, because ra never comes in word initial position, because it is that much marked sound.
No, but change in ra into ya, param into payam.
Yeah, so wherever we put ra, like whatever is the position, it changes to ya. And only in case of there is one example, that is parutta. In that case, because of the u vowel, it becomes pautta. It becomes va because of the assimilation kind of thing.